Hello and thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to show you how I turn this to this in just a few steps. Let's jump right in. Now when color grading this footage, I had to bear in mind that I'm using an 8-bit footage from my Fujifilm XT. So 8-bit footage tends to fall apart if you do some extensive color grading on it, so I had to keep it simple, but still trying to get that cinematic look. We're gonna go to this project settings. Under the master settings, I'm gonna leave everything at default, and under the color management, I'm gonna leave the color signs on Davinci RGB. Now the timeline color space, I'm gonna choose P3 DCI, which is the color space that is recommended by Fujifilm when using or when grading f-log footage. Now for the output color space, I'm going to change it to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. Then I'm going to hit save. Now for this first node, I'm going to name this NR for noise reduction. I like to rename my nodes so I can stay organized. Now under the noise reduction, I'm going to go to the temporal noise reduction and choose 3 for frames, and I'm going to decouple these. Now for the chroma, I'm going to use 8, and for the luma, I'm going to choose 6. Now under the spatial noise reduction, I'm going to decouple these as well, and I'm going to do 4 for chroma and 2 for luma, since there isn't that much noise in the highlights. Now let's just quickly check the before and after. It's a very subtle movement, but if you can look at the faces, you'll notice them getting a bit softer and sharper as I toggle the noise reduction on and off. So this is without the noise reduction, this is with the noise reduction on. We're going to create another serial node. Now I'm going to use a tool called color space transform. We're going to use this to transform this from one color space to another color space. Now for the input color space, we are going to choose P3 DCI. The input gamma, we're going to choose Fujifilm f-log. Now for the output color space, we're going to choose Rec 709, and for the output gamma, we're going to choose Xenon film log. I forgot to mention that we're going to be using a film print LUT, a film emulation, which is the codec 2383. Now it requires the output gamma to be Xenon film log for the LUT to work correctly. So this is what we've done so far. This is without the color space transform, and this is with it on. It's nothing major, but it's just converting the color space. Now let's rename this to CST, which stands for color space transform. We're going to create another serial node. We're going to name this print, which is where we'll be putting our LUT. Now under LUTs, we're going to go in film looks, and we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to choose this codec 2383 D55. We're going to put this on here. So this is what we've done so far. This is with the LUT on, this is without. Alrighty, we're going to put this all the way here, and then let's just stay organized. We're going to create another serial node. We're going to name this SAT, which stands for saturation. Now we're going to go in the RGB mixer. We're going to increase each channel by 2, green channel 2, blue channel 2. Now this is with the saturation, without the saturation. It looks good so far, but I think the saturation is way too much. Now we can go here under the key output, reduce this. I think we'll pack it right about here. This looks good. So this is before and after, before and after. You can see the colors popping out. We're going to create another serial node, put it here, and we'll call this look. So this is where we'll be dialing in our look. Now we'll go here. We're going to go to the log panel. So this is where we'll be dialing in our look. So I like to introduce some blues to the shadows, and maybe we'll introduce some teal green hue to the midtones, and to the highlights we'll introduce, which is where the skin tones and the bright colors are falling in. The highlights will introduce some orange yellow color, and then for the offset, for the overall color of this image, we'll introduce a bit of the same color that we introduced in the highlights. So let's check this. This is before and after. As you can see, with our look, we sort of introduced a more natural tone to the skin tones. If you look at their skin tones, before our look, they had this sort of blue tint to them, which looks a bit unnatural. But then after our look, you can see they have that sort of a natural tone to them. And you can even look at the shirt. Before our look, it was a sort of blue and not that a true white color, but after our look, I think it gets a bit natural. So I think we can bump up our saturation a bit, the key output. Okay, let's check the before and after again. This is, okay, sorry, yes, this is, okay, that's the saturation. This is before the look. This is before and this is after. Before and after. I think we can still introduce some blues in the shadows. I think that looks good. Yes, I think that looks good. And we can even bump up the contrast just a bit. Contrast just a bit. Yeah, I think that looks good. See, we're doing very subtle movements, but it makes a huge difference in the overall look of the footage. We're going to create another serial node, and we're going to rename this halation, and then we'll go to the effects panel, search for halation, put it on this node, and if you check at the light sources, the bright parts of the image, it's a bit too much. So we'll just dial it down. We'll go through to the threshold and just pay attention to the bulbs in the ceiling. You'll notice they're getting this reddish tone to them and this bloomy effect. So this is before the halation, and this is after. I think it's still a bit too much. That looks good. I think halation is one of the characteristics of film, and I think it looks awesome. Now I noticed that the highlights are a bit too high, so I think we can dial them down a bit. You can even see on the scopes here, we're clipping the reds just a bit. Now we can take that down. I think we're going to use Shift S to create a serial node before the halation, and we're going to rename this H lights for highlights. And for that, we're going to go to the HDR panel, and we're going to come here, and then for the color space, we're going to choose P3 DCI, and for the gamma Sinion film log, because we're putting this after the CST. the color space transform. Now we're going to go to the light and turn down the exposure just a bit. I think we can even go to the global, and let's see what we've done so far. If it has done, yes. So you can see the highlights going down just a bit, because I think the way it was kind of distracting. Now you can see when you toggle that on, it sort of brings down those highlights and it's not that distracting anymore. So this is what we've done so far. This is before and after, before and after. Now we'll introduce some grain. Let's shift this, just type grain and drag that onto here. Now I like using this 35mm 400T. Let's see on the default settings. I think it's a bit too much. We can dial that down. Now we'll come here, the grain strength, and then just turn that down a bit. Let's see this before and after, before and after. So yeah, I think this looks good. Now let's check what we've done. This is what we have achieved with just a few simple moves. Now we can quickly recap. So we started with the noise reduction, because F-Log tends to have noise in the shadows, and then after that we transformed the color space to a Cineon film log, and then after that we used a film print LUT, brought us here, and then we introduced some saturation. Then after that we dialed in our look, which balanced our footage a bit better, and then after that we brought down the highlights and we introduced some halation. Then to top it all off, we added some film grain.